We're snorting cap rates and shooting up cash flow here at Deal Junkies.
Welcome back to Deal Junkies. We are back in the studio. Gabe Johansson's missing today. That's why it sounded like a child intro to you.
Well, that was way better the last time you did it.
I felt like the energy was better. Yeah, so I appreciate that. Yeah. I'm here with Mike Nuss, Trevor Howard, and our very special second time guest, Marc Gallegos.
And we're interviewing Marc right now, or we're testing Marc out as a new host. You were going to replace Dane when Dane was gone all that time.
And Marc doesn't have the time. You as my co-host.
Yes, so you are the host right now. We're testing you out. And then we'll replace Dane later if this goes well.
Well, that sounds like an executive
We're
process.
about to have 6 seats at the new studio. So
we're going to have 6 hosts.
I can still hang out.
Well, we moved to this studio, but it's the same. Feels just as tight as the other one.
This isn't the new studio.
This isn't the new studio.
New here.
This is newer.
Yeah.
But I don't know
It's
if
the
it's
I was like, oh, we're going to a new room, and I walk in.
Yeah,
It's just as tight.
this is a Harry Potter closet.
Why'd you guys do that?
Why you guys got the Potter closet on me?
It's not our studio.
No.
But anyway, we brought Marc in today to talk about how to raise money and then about negotiating deals and how many deals Marc has lost from negotiating too hard. But one of the most impressive things about Marc is his ability to raise money and how everyone loves Marc. And I have not figured out why everyone loves you. All our employees, we hire employees, and then their favorite person is Marc, who doesn't even work at our company.
Hey, they've never...
I would have expected that.
Yeah.
Don't you know the professional athletes are just the charismatic people?
That's right. Marc was a professional athlete.
He's got that riz.
Junior.
Yeah, back in the day.
He's got the riz.
Dude, so what was...
magnetic.
So
he's magnetic in a way you are not. That's how it's the secret.
One day. So
I am working on this.
So I
will improve.
I didn't know how impressive it was, how much money you raised, until Mike set us up on that meeting with Brian Murray, and we were asking him about how to raise money, and he asked Marc how much money he's raised over the past 3 years, and then he looked at Marc and was like, "Oh, that's a lot."
What was the answer to that question?
He actually asked us, how much have you raised this year?
Because it was this year, because it was in 23, and it was like, this is the hardest year to... Well, no.
24.
It was the start of 24.
Yeah, he was like, the last 12 months have been extremely hard. We haven't been able to raise, blah, blah, blah. And we're like, well, we're doing some deals. And he's like, well, how much have you raised this year?
Yep.
And we had just accomplished the Lebanon project and the Astoria project. And it was like, I don't know, 8 million or so, the two of them. And so... He was impressed.
And Fisher, right?
That wasn't that period that he was. Because he was like, "What? You haven't?"
Yeah.
This has been a hard season.
Yeah.
I don't know. Out of necessity.
So when a guy like that was impressed at how much money he raised,
close to your mouth.
You can turn this thing if you want to raise it up and down too. So when a guy like that was impressed with how much money he raised, I realized, that's a lot of money he raised. And I try to share how Marc raises money with people that we try to help.
Yep.
But I'm probably not doing it right, so I want to bring you on to to share how you actually make this happen.
I love it. Before you do that, I do want to say something just from a self-development standpoint. So I did three presentations for an ARPM. I talked a lot about extrinsic and intrinsic value. It's supposed to be economic forecasting. My takeaway this morning after debriefing everything is internally, I hate the fact that I need extrinsic validation of who I am. And specifically what showed up on that was I didn't call myself a builder until one of the premier lenders said, "You are a premier builder."
Did that feel pretty good?
Yeah, it did. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. And so then you're seeing validation in what, Marc, you guys have done just because someone like Brian Murray said you have raised this capital. And I just didn't want to pass over that learning and growth moment because now your confidence level ever since that has shot through the roof.
Yeah, I didn't think Marc was that cool until Brian said he was cool.
Exactly.
Now I think he's cool.
This guy just deflects fucking compliments like no other. Does that not piss you off?
He's lacking feel.
I'm trying to compliment all of you. Like it happened to you as well, but there's a moment there where you can recognize that you transform as a human being when you realize these certain little things. Tiny little thing that reframes who you are that then makes you more magnetic, and now you've raised more capital.
That's true. I bet you left that meeting and you were like, oh, I am good at that.
No, he's fine. Cool. He doesn't need, he's an athlete. He doesn't need extrinsic validation.
Yeah.
Oh, he loved it. He loved it.
That had been a hard year, though.
When was this? I don't.
That was the start of 2024. Well, actually, I say that.
Yeah.
That was in. It was in June of
year
2024 because it was right after you had closed on Hickory, essentially.
Yeah.
Or the loan for Hickory.
What's cool is I get to talk next meetup, and what I found as I'm thinking through that are all those seasons of like really big milestones, and I think what you're talking to is a very important part of that, where you put your head down and you go, and for whatever reason you pick your head up and you realize you're through it, and you realize, oh, I'm a different person now. I've gained some skills. And when other people that have experience, when you're around them, that's just the whole of, you are who you're around. So when they are constantly feeding you energy and you're getting through it and you don't realize that it's hard because it's necessity. That's the growth. And it's really fun to look back at those moments. Like I think a year ago, and I was like, wow, that was that was hard, but the last few months have been just as hard. And, it's like in the moment, it's like, that's the hardest thing I've ever done. And then it just keeps getting going and going. But
when was the last time you pulled your head up and you were like, oh man,
I don't know.
You think it was
part
like
of what you said
last
too
month?
is like the reflection. I forgot what word you used, but like as you're kind of debriefing yourself on whatever moment you're learning about or you're in the moment. But that's an important part too, just like reflecting on, taking a step back and being like, what went good, what went bad, what would I change, what does the next step look like? And I don't think a lot of people do that. I think that's a big part of growth too. Accelerating it is just we did that in baseball a lot too, with like looking at an at bat.
Exactly. Yep. So you can take the data to move forward. How often do you do that conversation, that debriefing with your lenders and your capital partners and the people you're raising capital from?
Maybe that's part of it, where there is some transparency there of like the challenges, the friction, getting them informed enough to make a decision. And I think that might be just a transparent element of the way I raise capital. But yeah, I don't really think about that in regards to it. I do a lot of self-reflection of just like, if I'm in the shoes of if whatever I'm asking of, if I'm trying to get a good deal, like to Trevor's point, or I'm looking at raising money, if I'm in their shoes, how am I dissecting it? What is like the breaking point?
Yeah, it's a weird thing when you're on the other side of the deal. Because I mean, Trevor and I have a tendency, as does Gabe, which Gabe is our mentor, to just kind of give away more generally. And it's really just because it's like, well, I just want to get the deal done. Like I don't. And then you look at the deal and it's like, dude, they would have taken a quarter of that. They would have been happy still. And so that's been a reframing that I've had to make, especially when you're asking me like, hey, what are we doing on this deal when we're like pitching it to somebody? And so specifically this morning, even when you were like, I had to sit down and think about, we have a deal we're working on right now and, somebody potentially bringing some money. And initially my thought was to give away literally 4 times what now I think we're going to give them. And what I think we're giving them now is still a great deal. Like I could confidently talk to that investor and be like, dude, like you can't get this anywhere else. It's still a really good deal for you. Here's why, X, Y, Z. And, a year ago, I would have just been like, take what you want. Like you can, I don't know. Because I would still be happy. Yeah. But I don't need to think about, it's to your point, I need to think about what is like, if I'm in their shoes, what is the minimum that I would take and still be like, I'd love to do another deal with these guys. Like,
and a big part of that, I think you don't even realize is the gray fog that comes if you are presenting to an offer to a investor, whoever the end user is, the offer, and the offer isn't clear to you. Yeah. And you're trying to pitch it. There's no chance you'll ever get anything. But if you come fully prepared with a very thoughtful offer, clear, that wins because they see the confidence that you've worked through it. Yeah. But yeah, you nailed, like you sent a bunch of terms on this thing and I was like, oh, I'm like 4 hours away from even being able to respond. I have to chew on that for a while and look at it all angles, because the last thing I want to do is present something and they ask a pointed question and I'm like, yeah, I haven't thought about that. Yeah. Yeah. It's a 0% chance. of getting that, you know?
Yeah. No, deal's gone. Yeah, if that happens.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's been a huge part of bouncing ideas back and forth, is just like making sure that we both fully understand the benefits on either side.
So that's the interesting part too, because we know about structuring deals creatively and all the ways you can structure on the acquisition side, but you can do the same thing on a capital side too, which starts to get crazy because you can have different share classes, give people different depreciations and things like that. So how do you learn that and then start thinking through that and think through what someone wants?
Yeah, it's a learn. I mean, I am nowhere where I want to be. I've got a good grasp of my network and what is important to them. And so when I approach an investor, I understand their timing, their deal size, their, go and no-go range. And so I think that that's part of it that is interesting, because now my network is getting pushed pretty hard. Like, I presented a lot of deals, a lot of opportunities, and now we're going to new groups, new faces, that there's that period of like, hey, I need to validate who I am to you so I get a shot, but I also need to like kind of understand what is important to you and why you'd be interested in this. And so that is where it comes from, of like getting a handle on what is good for them, why it would make sense for them. And then just kind of running down the list of like, okay, if, in order to make this deal solid and like good backup plans to it, how does that play with the investor's money too? Because, you can present something great, like this has to go great on these things, but if you misalign the investor's interest with the backup plans too, that could be catastrophic. Even though you align a different interest, like a different investor and their interest with your backup plans, could be just as good. So like you have to align not only plan A, but plan B and C with the investor too. And I think that just being aware of that and taking it slow and presenting a really thoughtful offer is the ticket.
Yeah.
When you're meeting with a new investor, what do you find yourself, like, what is the start of the conversation typically? Because I know that I've changed like the order of who I'm talking about, what questions I'm asking, like whether or not I'm even presenting a deal. I mean, because now typically I'm not. But what is your kind of order of ops, like fresh investor?
I'm probably asking 80% of the questions. And I'm trying to, at least, and trying to just get a grasp of what is good in their eyes, in regards to good being stable, doesn't keep them up at night, check size, all of that. And so just interviewing them essentially. And then our deals are starting to get more complicated too. Like in the past 3 years, like our deals have been one thing, ground up, build and hold. Yeah. And so it's pretty simple. When you start layering all these crazy acquisitions and buyouts and short-term stuff, it gets gnarly. And so I don't want to stumble through that. That's the last thing I want to do. So it's really just like trying to get a grasp of what they like, and then scheduling a follow-up where I can come really prepared. Because that's the thing, like all my investors I would have dinner with, I would be friends with. I don't mind texting at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And so if I'm interviewing someone and I'm like, that's not a good fit, I won't even go there.
Yeah.
Because to me, I enjoy to me, clients are like, oh, I don't want to text you after 5 or whatever. It's like, I'll text you till I go to sleep.
It's actually when I text the best.
That's the only time I'm going to text you. So
yeah.
I don't know. It's probably just at the scale I'm at now where it's fine. But that's how I kind of look at it. Like I want a partner there that we're friends and I care about them as a person. I care about their family and all that. If it's like an institution, which we haven't really done, it's different. And I haven't got that to that level. So I don't know.
Well, and these people that have invested with you, like you've made people millions of dollars to this point, which is crazy. So he's at the point where people call him and they're like, hey, my uncle has $750,000 and they want to do whatever you're doing. Just you take this money because I trust you, which is a crazy thing to see. And we're starting to get it a little bit with smaller chunks on that, but it's just people handing it over. But I was curious, can you talk through like how you started raising and how it's evolved so people can ideally start to grasp what that looks like? Okay.
So my journey was learned how to wholesale. That turned into like stumbling into flips because the deals were like, I had to do this deal. So then I would go out to partners and be like, okay, here's my master plan. I'd lay it out, start to finish, everything I could possibly think about, present it to the investor, and they can tell that I've thought about it, and they can tell that it's a no-brainer. Like guaranteed, if I present this to someone with the capital, they will say yes 100 times out of the 100 times. So I did that on all my first few deals, and it meant that they are coming back every time. Like they are so excited to do the next one. So then that built my resume, and then I went, and it was time, like I had enough money because I had a pretty low paying job my first few. I was a mortgage broker, and it was just really tough times. Like my first,
it's actually a no paying job.
Yeah, like,
unless you make it a
apparently
paying
it wasn't a
job.
good idea. I don't know, but I got in like June or July. My W-2 for that year, which was 2015, I made like $1,400.
Nice.
And I worked really, really hard.
Well, you started halfway through the year, though.
That's the thing. You do a loan, you get paid
$2,800.
You would have made $2,800 on the year.
Brutal. So, anyways, what the moral of the story is I needed to get some money to go do and buy holds. So I like flipped for a while, and then when it was time to do buy and holds, I had some money and I had experience. I had a resume. So then I went to the new investor and I gave him a no-brainer deal. So you start to acquire these no-brainer deals.
So you made him an offer so good that he felt stupid saying no.
Yeah. Hormozy.
Which is what you need to think about for our new offer when you were asking us about it. Dude, okay, keep going. Sorry. We'll talk about that later.
But that's the ticket, right?
Yeah.
Because then they're going to tell their friends, and you're going to have all of a sudden some competition. Like they're going to have competition on, because you only have so many deals. So presenting something that just makes a ton of sense.
Wait. Did you just say you got to give a really good deal to your first lender so you can get referrals to have a bigger pool of lenders to then negotiate them down with their own friends?
Yeah.
I love him.
Yeah, he's a monster.
Because like my best investor, a young kid I went to college with, his whole family is my investors now, and he's like trying to allocate funds on their behalf.
He's literally an asset manager for family members.
A little fun guy without being a fun guy.
They're just like, dude, what are you doing? How are you? Just do it with mine.
So you just try to make it so clear. So then I forgot the original question. What was the original question?
We're walking through how you evolved and learned to raise.
Yeah.
But
so
you got to the point where you're doing the flips. And
the foundation of it is you spend so much time designing the offer, and you just make it clear that you've thought through it. Like we get people come up to us and like, hey, how do I get started? And it's like you have to get somewhere before you can ask of somebody. Like you have to be a willing participant, right? In
your own success.
Yeah. So I would just say providing so much thought into something. When you approach someone and ask, it's easy to get, because you're either going to find out if this is a good idea or not because you spent the thought on it, and then it's a clear ask.
And a lot of people don't know what an ask is. So like one of the biggest rookie mistakes you see on a pitch is there's no clear ask. Okay, well, what are you asking for? Oh, well, a partner or this or that. And it's
as an ask or an offer, though, like because it's two different things. Right?
An offer is an ask. It's a pitch, right? So it's a pitch.
Okay.
Yeah, think of it as a pitch. What are you pitching? Are you pitching equity? Are you pitching debt? Are you pitching partnership? How are you structuring this? And I think the biggest mistake that I see is you don't know what you want, because intrinsically you don't know what you're worth and what you actually need, right? What are you offering to them? That's a worth itself. What are you worth shows you what you offer to them, which then can define what you're asking for.
And they can totally feel it too.
Absolutely.
When you don't have it dialed in ahead of time. And I think back to the first conversations when Mark was just like trying to get me to start going, where I was trying to raise money, and it is tough.
Raising money comes from self-worth and self-respect and self-confidence. Has nothing to do with the deal.
Yeah. Well, but part of it was that I felt like since I hadn't done the exact deal that we were doing yet, my brain, there was a block of like, I don't even know if it's real yet. So how am I supposed to like get them to believe that it's real? Because in my mind, I hadn't done one of these, so I couldn't tell them about.
You have to have belief in the deal,
but it was more belief in like, okay, the deal's gonna work, but we still have to get everything lined up on the front end.
So you didn't truly have belief, right? So once you got to a point where, hey, we're gonna buy this no matter what.
For sure.
I see the plan. Now you believe in it. Your self-worth increases significantly different. And this is why narcissists have no problem raising money, because their self-worth is not. It's 100 out of 100, and the deal they know is was a 0 out of 100 doesn't matter because my 100 out of 100 is what raised capital.
Yeah.
But for people that have good ethics and values, you have to have a high 100. You'll never be 100 on one side, but you do need to understand your deal as well. Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
And I knew it, and it was like, okay, the day this deal is done, great deal. But like, it's me and Mark getting it done. That was like, well, that was both of your biggest raise, obviously mine, but yours even at the time. And so it was just kind of like, we didn't have a game plan. Like him and I were just hitting the streets for it. And that was another thing that I wanted to go back to when you were talking about like the ask for people. When you first started talking to me about raising capital and talking to new investors, we would be walking into a conversation and I would be like, so what's the goal here? And you'd be like, they're probably, they're going to be like 400 debt. And I was like, okay, so you guys have talked about this? He'd be like, no, not yet. And I'd be like, so how do you know they're going to do 400 of debt? And he was like, that's just what I have them earmarked for. That's what they're going to, I just know, I can kind of feel it. I was just like, but it had nothing to do really with them. It had everything to do with like, this is my offer. I'm going in with this expectation. I don't think they're worth $10 million.
I agree with that, but it's probably more than that, where he has an understanding of what their avatar is. So he's already seen a hole and kind of plugged it. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I know this guy.
Yeah, and this is where experience matters, is where and that's what our job is because there's different buckets of capital. They have different needs and desires, and you have to communicate differently and structure them differently. And you mentioned gnarly. That's what I love, is the growth pattern is once you get really gnarly, this stuff gets significantly more complicated. It's hard to get gnarly if you haven't worked with those different avatars, because you need all 3 or 4 of those avatars to plug into your different deal structures,
pull them all in for
exactly. And then that's where it's art. That's what's creativity is. Now you get to then create those holes and plug them.
Yeah, and I think that I don't know when the appropriate time to say it is, but like the ultimate reason why I think I've had success raising money is because every deal we raise money on, I believe is a good deal, and I'm investing every dollar I possibly can into that deal, and I have control of that deal. So if something were to go wrong, my money is the first to go down, and those investors are going to win. Or I operate that deal, or I change the doorknobs on that deal, or I paint that. Like, all those things as levers I can pull. And so I am not afraid of doing these because I'm convicted enough to put every dollar that I can into them. And oftentimes people say, well, what's your skin in the game? And I'm like, it's probably more than your position on this deal. Like, in most cases, there's definitely some really big investors, but I am convicted enough to do these. And then, it comes to like, when you look at the marketplace, and we don't have a lot of syndication here. And like, I've ran into no syndicators.
There's one other group in Salem.
They're out there and they're really good, but they're out there because they're privately doing this. But like, out blasting media and all that, I look at these guys and I'm like, you're raising money on deals you have no control over. Like, our construction company is the one doing the work on these deals. So like, it's just that in and of itself is, I like control, and I like having the skills to go fix something if there's a problem. And that's why I'm comfortable raising money. We have property management in-house, we have construction in-house, we have acquisition brokers. Like, it's all there, and it's like these levers that you pull. And I think that's ultimately why we've had success.
When you aren't syndicating, you're raising capital for partnerships. There's a clear difference between syndication, where you're just a GP and then you're hiring people as part of the structure, versus all syndications are partnerships. You're raising capital for a partnership where you are an invested partner and you have the structure and you have the vertical integration. And what's different about those two things is, if you're just a syndication, you don't have any of the vertical integration, you can walk away like that. But when your vertical integration is tied to the partnership, you cannot walk away. You are structured. You're vested in it from a completely different standpoint.
To be clear, we are syndicating though too.
Like by SEC.
Yeah, you are syndicating, but there's a difference, and that changes your pitch, right? When from a raising capital standpoint, that significantly changes what your offer is compared to the other competitors in town.
You're saying like from an SEC perspective?
No, I'm just saying from you communicating with your lenders, the people you're borrowing money from, there is a clear difference between that. And then that even goes further into, well, why are there not a lot of syndicators in our markets? Because if you're a syndicator and you are not vertically syndicators go into all kinds of markets because they don't have to be vertically integrated. They don't come to our markets because it's easier to go to other markets. So it's the flow of capital. It's where they're raising capital, how they raise capital. They have that level of. So what you're providing by being in your market, partnering, you're doing a syndication structure, but you're creating a completely different environment. That's what I was really want to get clear to the audience.
Interests are aligned with the investors that we talk to. Like, we look at the Seaside project. We've got my superintendent on the job who's running it is one of the major investors on it. We've got the window supplier, the trim supplier. We've got
there's 8 subs on it.
Yeah, and like
roof,
they care,
floors,
it's amazing, and it's synergy, like, to its definition, so it sounds, I mean, it is like a big, like, we've raised a lot of money and all that, but I think all we've really done is like brought opportunities to people that would say yes over and over and over again. And it's just like, we're not advertising and going out to the marketplace and all that. We will probably someday, but like for now, it's just kind of playing quarterback, putting the right people in the right spot, and using our skills well.
I want to fund a deal with only subcontractors. I think we will. I mean, we weren't super far off on
so
it.
So explain why that's cool, though. Because
it's cool
you
because
can have everyone in the deal contribute their fees and bring less money to the deal, right? Is the idea.
I mean, it leaves you levers, but the main reason that it's cool, correct me if I'm wrong, is that when you say, hey, flooring guy, hey, framer,
now.
Here's your dates, here's our schedule. We're having a meeting 2 months before close saying, hey, here's all our timelines, and obviously it's the super and the PM doing that, but they're saying these are our timelines. You need to be ready like 2 weeks before this, and then if need be, if we're ahead, you're going to be here then. The latest you're going to get here is right now. And if you're invested on the project, it's like, I'm going to be free. Like, I'll move stuff around to make sure that works.
You haven't even gotten to the third order of benefit of that. So he mentions the first order, well, different liquidity stacks. Second order, now they are tied to the project. They will move everything to make it work. Third order is once you're done and once you're profitable and now you have the next deal.
Oh, yeah.
And then the next deal and the next deal and the next deal. This is another completely format of how you're going to build out your portfolio.
So let's get to that a little bit because that's how you've raised money. So going back to the flipping, I was curious, what were you raising for these deals? How many deals are you doing? And then how did that progress?
Back then, I would you fund all of the purchase. First deal, I said, you fund all the purchase, I'll fund the repairs, and then you get 66%. You get 2/3, I get 1/3. And so I would do all the work, and I would reimburse my hours of the labor because I basically, like, paint quota is $6,000. I'll do the paint, $500 a paint, 20 hours, pay me this labor rate.
Yeah.
Because I was a pretty good tradesperson, like I knew I could do that stuff. So I had just like establish a labor rate and do that, and then I would get 1/3 of the profit. And so he said, yeah, every time you can do that. So we made like 80-something grand, 70-something grand on my first few flips, and I didn't really care. It didn't really matter because I got paid for my labor, and then I got a resume builder. And at the time I was making 20-30 grand a year, so it was
awesome.
That mattered.
Yeah.
But
I was making 2-3 grand.
So how did you start scaling it to bigger deals? Was it as you built the construction company and needed money? You just needed more money, or what is it?
It was I had that resume, and then I was like, okay, I'm ready for renovate and hold, BRRRR at that moment. And so I approached anybody that I knew had money. I said, hey, who do you know that would land on these projects? I want to start holding these deals. And he said, talk to my brother. He'd be a great lender for you. So I went and presented to him and lined up like terms that he would offer for me on these projects, kind of built the avatar of like what we're trying to do in the next 12 months. And then we went and brought 3 duplexes together. And so he would do high points and then give me a 30-day window to go refi. So I had kind of, in his eyes, he was protected because he's like, if it goes long, like I get a daily rate and life's good. If you operate the way you say you will, you're just paying origination. And so we did that for a while, and I acquired a few. And then after that, I started like just scaling the acquisitions. I had the lenders on the back end, but I would just get seller carries on all these things. And so I guess it's just the track record, having a clear offer, and then once that clear offer is there, it's clear what you're chasing because you have the terms and the parameters.
Yeah, and you were raising, sounds like $100,000 or 50 to $100,000. When was your next like big raise?
I mean, no, that raise was like 800 in a year.
Okay,
and that was deal by deal. It was all duplexes, you know. And then the next big one was like the whole fun story of like starting Skyline and chasing the 26 unit. Interest rates went from 4.5% to 6%. Needed an extra $1 million. And like we had $1 million in the deal, and then we needed an extra $1 million. Needed to figure out how to do that. So I was prepping it because I'm going to talk about it at the meetup. But we had just had my second child. This was 2022, and I'm at the hospital. Appraisal comes in, and I see the value in the interest rate and the lendable.
As your wife is giving birth?
No, baby goes out, appraisal comes in. Oh, no.
It could have been like that.
At least you got to enjoy the joy.
I got a lot of work.
No, and I was just sitting there like, oh, where's that million going to come from? And so it forced me to learn about that. But, you know, that is a great example of, hey, guys, I need to raise money. And they're like, well, what do you have in the deal? And I'm like, oh, we have all of the money.
All of the money.
And they're like, oh, cool. Here you go. And so it was very clear, like, oh, if you're into the deal, they're going to be into the deal.
So one time you told me how you actually raise money is you just opened your phone and you're like, I start at the first contact and then I call them and then I go to the next contact and then I just go all the way through.
I go to my recent text messages and I literally just flip through, and something happens in my brain where I think, oh, Tom he told me once about this guy, and I text Tom, hey, is your buddy still interested? You know, we're doing more projects, whatever. And I just send text to everyone that I've recently talked to. And it's literally just like it blossoms into all these conversations, and they tell their friend and they tell their friend, and it's just
the best text is your friend still investing in this kind of stuff? And then they're like, what do you have? What do you like, you know, half the time it's like, no, I have money. Oh, okay, yeah, whatever, sure.
So is that how you would recommend someone start raising capital? Is just
I would say take 3 years back, get good at running stuff, and
so get the skill first.
Absolutely. Like,
so you have track record to go pitch.
Because when you get good at running stuff, you are running the numbers enough to then present to somebody, and it's running numbers off of experience, right? And so you're then presenting to somebody. You're not going to have trouble raising money if you present a good offer and you know how to do it. It's not rocket
So if
science.
someone hasn't done it yet and they need money, what do they do?
Done a deal?
They haven't done a deal and they need money to do a deal. What do they do?
Partner with somebody and be the donkey. Do everything. Find the deal, operate the deal, get paid on upside.
Just give away as much value as possible.
Be the donkey.
You
heard the man.
Just like
take them to town.
Put your tool belt on and get to work.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how people could possibly expect to go from nothing to raising money.
No.
It makes no sense to me.
I'm so glad you said that.
That's mind blowing.
I was going to ask you a question on that. I didn't want to ask a question, but I'm so glad you said that. And that's a double-edged sword, like having the money and not just going right into it without any experience. Yeah. And you see people that just think I can go immediately to this. And it's, well, how?
You mean having the money like personally and going into
that, or just having access to a friend who has money? Just like that is the double-edged sword. Where having a lender look at your deal is really important to have someone who's been through it look at it. But I just don't. And just seeing kind of new people of like, hey, I got this deal. I don't even know if it's a good deal because I've never actually done one, and I want you to give your money to meet a partner, and here's how we're going to get it done. I'm just going to hire everything out. Like, no. Yeah. That's not a track record for success. You need to come from it from a standpoint of how am I going to grow as a human being through this process of raising my first capital deal? And what is it that I need to learn? And well, maybe that's what you should offer in your pitch.
Yeah. And I kind of, it's just fun. It's fun for me. I don't know if you guys will like it, but in the talk I'm planning next month or whatever it is, I had a coach in high school that drilled this down into my head. It was called AVCE, which is analyze, visualize, center, and execute. And so anything you do, you are going to, get your grounding, analyze it, right? Then you're going to visualize it working through the process. Then you center and you kind of reflect, pray, you get centered to do it. If you are trying to raise money, you will immediately find during that process, this doesn't make sense. I'm going to back out of this thing. If you follow that principle.
Absolutely.
If you just either you're experienced enough to do it confidently, or you're not, you're going to get experience on that particular deal and offering through that process, and it's just going to work itself out if you seriously work through the mental exercise.
Yeah.
I just went through that in my business where I had a deal tied up, ultimately let $10,000 of earnest money go, just cut it loss because it was the capital does not line up with what this deal process is. And once I let that go, 6 weeks later, we have a deal, almost the exact same parcel type numbers, 2 miles away from each other, but the process is different. And when you think through the capital stack, that what's needed to get, it just aligns. And that other one was clearly a no, and it sucks to let the 10 grand go, but it makes way for a clear yes. But you have to visualize into a framework. How important is a framework to kind of what you do? And do you have other types of frameworks like that?
That I just use throughout of just as much as you get pumped up in energy and momentum, taking a step back, just like Dane sending me the offer, hey, this is what we've concluded as our presentation. I'm like, okay, well, I'll get to that in a minute. I got to chew on it for a while because it just helps. You're humans. We have so many faults of just our brains and our confidence and our emotions. And so that analysis, that process that my coach really taught me was just especially in sports, you get all pumped up and you get all fired up. And so just having something to work through and just take a breath, center yourself, and then do it. Things are going to fall off like crazy and you're going to be a much better person.
Absolutely.
I think that to talk about Mike, you are the king of helping other people not do bad deals. Just somebody's hey, Mike, for whatever reason, you've got
I've just gotten very direct.
You've got so much circle. You've got a huge circle of people who are well, Mike does stuff kind of like this, so I'm going to just shoot it his way. And so frequently it's hey, I'm thinking about this in my head. Certainly not. Don't do that. Here's why.
Well, we
and
walked
you're never
into that today. I walk in the room and Mike's hammering on Trevor that deal doesn't. You
can't do that.
But he was wrong.
He was
wrong.
No. It was explained wrong. It was explained wrong.
Sword sharpening swords is that process.
No, it was good. We were thinking through it. We were analyzing it.
Yeah.
We were both just talking through it.
And that's the beauty of actually trying to kill a deal is probably one of the best ways to solve
to make it work. Yeah, because then everybody's oh shoot, no, that does go. That goes.
Yeah, that's the funnest. Yeah, that's the best part about partnerships and strategic partnerships. Everyone's got their little magic superpower, and then you just put them in, and it's not 2 + 2, it's multiplies over and over.
And it really is magic because let me tell you, I was on the phone call with Gabe the other day and we came up with a deal structure. We're this is a good deal, but we needed extra $2.1 million. And then I was Gabe, how are we going to get the $2.1 million? And he's I don't know. Dane and Mark will figure it out. I was okay, cool.
Dane and Mark's job.
Magic.
Magic. And then poof, it works.
Yeah, Trevor's view of the world is a little different than mine.
Yeah, he's in awe.
No, he's he's the puppy dog. He's the golden retriever. He gets to ignore a lot of things and pant his way through success, and smile while he's panting.
Oh, that's good.
Hey,
that's what I was trying. That's what. I think the puppy dog analogy is so good for you. I wish you could see it how I saw it, how I see it.
That's funny.
That is good. On the 2 + 2 = 4, that's also a huge part of being able to pitch the deal is when you come in and we're all pinpointing the one thing that we normally see in a deal that we don't like or do when you're looking at whatever it may be, especially on complex deals. It's so easy to miss something super basic just because it's not how your brain works through a deal structure. And then somebody will be well, where's that coming from? And you're oh, I didn't get there. I had totally missed that. But an investor is going to ask that. And so then you don't end up with your pants down on the call because your brain doesn't think through it like that. And so again, to like what we were doing before the episode, where you're like, no, it doesn't work that way. This is what, and then we work through it so that then when the investor says, well, hang on, I'm going to get hit with a $2 million tax burden. And it's like, actually, we talked about this already. Like we worked through it. Trust me. Like, still go see your CPA. Go see your CPA.
It's not tax
advice. However, from the way we understand it, I actually think this is how it'll work. Right. Mm-hmm. And then you can talk them through it. And then, I mean, they don't have a place to be like, well, okay, yeah, let me go. And then you go in confidently to talk to whatever professional you need to talk to about it, because we're not that. But
something I visualized also on the concept of the 2 + 2 is more than 4 is how you guys now, what makes Stack really special. You've heard me talk a lot about where like you guys are building your business through brokerage. I built my business through property management and asset management and acquisitions. Gabe built his business through brokerage and the property management, and then that leads to this acquisitions where you built your business through construction and development at a level that they have not. And I think they'll be the first ones to admit that asset management wasn't their best skill set in their early formation of their partnership. And so we
don't talk about that word.
Yeah. And so when you come on board, like, and I love again seeing you guys over a period of time, because when you came on board, I saw you as a builder partner. The first podcast episode, okay, he's more than that, and I see that there's a lot more to that puzzle.
He's a friend also.
Well, hopefully. I mean, isn't the goal to make friends and have fun and make friends?
Yeah, we're friends.
But then to see like the layer of just glue on top of that, of just gluing everything together, it's freaking beautiful to see. Like, it's, if I were to be a fund-to-fund person to raise capital for a group that is a vertically integrated syndication company, that's what I would absolutely look for, is what elements do they have? Do they have asset management, property management, acquisitions, deal structure, and multiple asset classes, or share structures, multiple share structures, so they can offer flexibility to what I'm trying to do as an investor.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the battle of it. Like, it's an amenity battle right now of, if I'm an investor, where am I putting my money? Because the returns aren't astronomically ahead of others. We're all in the same playing field right now. So you look at the downside risks. You're like, okay, well, I could maybe go to the Midwest and do that. I could maybe stay here, and new construction is this. You've got a playing field, and it's all a matter of like the people that you're doing it with and the security in that. So yeah, I couldn't be more pleased just like with the diversity of skill sets, the challenge. We've got different age groups too, like Gabe, me, these young guys, like we all have,
we're the same age as you. Come on,
puppy dogs.
No,
the puppy dogs. You're not the same age as Mark. No disrespect.
How old are you?
32.
Yeah. He's just more advanced for our age.
Yes.
I've had a hip surgery too.
We're talking about business age.
I would say the 3 kids does it for me more than the
shoulder and the hip.
Yeah.
I'm years ahead.
Yeah.
3 kids do it too. But yeah, it's just like the open conversation of deals is the important part too. And feeling comfortable challenging each other and things is the difference, and it makes it really enjoyable.
And we all think about the way we want to do deals very differently too. Where like when initially you came in to start like the first deal
50 cents
that I
on
was
the
like
dollar.
that I was like, hey, we're I think
Was it Cav?
No, it was the first one we brought you in on was Tamara.
The 18 or 26 unit or whatever we did.
And they were like, Dan, you got to come in. And it was like 2 weeks after you and I had been like, we should do all the deals together. Like, there's no reason to just try to go out on our own. Like, you do this part, I'll do this part. And then they brought me in and I was like, we should bring Mark in too. And then you were like, how's this work? And I was like, yeah. So we're paying a lot. It's a lot. But it's going to work out, and like trying to break it down. And like, you had never done a deal like that. You certainly had people who you were partners with that would not ever do a deal like that. And then you kind of came around to it where it was like, well, Gabe's doing it. So I'm going to let my hands off that part of the reins. And then I'm just going to go do asset management. I know my role on this deal specifically, and then what it's going to be on future deals. And now what you were talking about where you're combining, this was before the episode, wasn't it? Where you're looking at deals from not only terms, but also trying to get a front end price where it's like, and so now every time, now we're starting to get both. where it's like, okay, shoot.
Sauce.
Yeah, and then you're getting price and terms on a deal. You're in a good spot. You're in a good spot.
Have you ever failed on a raise when you were doing a project and were unable to raise the money you needed?
I don't want to jinx it. No, but we backed out of deals.
Okay.
That
you could have done had you had the money?
I don't know. The one in Albany that I'm specifically thinking about was like a 77 unit. It had all the right dynamics, but it went like $3 million over the budget I set for the ceiling. So like the way on the projects like that, you engage with pro forma numbers, tie it up, spend way too much in due diligence.
Like $100,000, $200,000, yeah?
Not that one. That one was like 25 grand without labor. But like River Run, I mean, we spent.
Yeah, and it's hours. So you mean you spent $25,000 and thought about it for a long time?
Yeah, plus the 25 of hard money.
Yeah.
So then like that's through feasibility studies and different, construction related third party stuff. And then we bid it, and it's like, okay, here's my number, here's my ceiling. We finalize the budget. Way off.
Doesn't work.
Yeah, and like we had lenders queued up for it that were pumped. So those deals suck when you start. They don't suck on their own. They suck when you have 3 of them at the same time, and you've now lost $100,000 of due diligence, and it's like, and just investor momentum.
Yeah, they're ready. They're queued up. They like it, and then you're like, hey, this doesn't work.
That sucks. I have not finished a deal because, as Dane alluded to earlier, I've lost a lot of great deals because I wanted amazing, perfect deals, and so when I have a deal, it generally is like a no-brainer, and there's somebody out there that would love to do that deal.
Sweet.
Yeah, that's to the point of not failing the raise, though. I think that's a clear distinction. Is like, if you had said in your heart after you did your ABCE, you were like, this is a great deal. But you never went out to the streets and said like, hey, this passes all my criteria. But there's no way if you look at a deal and you're kind of like, that you're actually ever going to be, you wouldn't have been able to raise it because you didn't have the feel on it.
Let's talk about deals in that other part in the next episode. To close out, you were professional baseball player. You set the world record for stolen bases or something. You said.
No, there's the pre-hip surgery, post-hip surgery careers. No, I played at Astoria High School. Great, we won a lot. It was awesome. Played with awesome like guys that are still playing, and went to college at Corbin. Went to Oregon State for like a little bit. Ended up going back to Corbin. Had hip surgery. Played for the Knights, and that was it.
So you set a record, right?
Yeah, there's a few.
And now you have a nice little 10-foot bank shot, jump shot in your indoor basketball court is what you're known for.
He's got ups. Mark had a 40-inch vertical, by the way.
No,
he didn't have a measuring tape at that time.
Clip. Yeah, they didn't have tape measurers back then. We didn't know how long things were.
So if people want to get a hold of you, they want to invest in your deals, how can they reach out to you and learn more about what you're doing?
The Stack email is going to be a good landing spot for all things related to, good things to understand about the market, upcoming deals. So I would say
we'll put a link in below.
Subscribe to that, and you'll be in the loop of everything if you get on that.
Yeah. We have an email list. Comes from Dane at stackassetgroup.com. We'll have a link in the description where you can email me, and I'll put you on the email list, and then you'll get updates bi-weekly. So we're thinking every other week.
Yep.
On projects.
Sounds good.
Trevor inventing a new process on
No, we
on
have it
the
already.
spot.
Trevor just gets uncomfortable. All right. Well, on the next episode, we're going to talk about deals that Mark has actually done.
And lost.
Deals gone bad?
No,
Deals gone wild?
All right. We'll see you guys later.
All right.